This is Movies on TV Podcast Industries. We're back in the Spider-Verse for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
In every other universe, Gwen Stacy falls for Spider-Man. And in every other universe, it doesn't end well.
Well, it's the first time for everything, right?
Welcome back, fellow defenders, to Movies on TV Podcast Industries. We're back with a spoiler-filled discussion of the brand new Marvel movie, Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I'm one of your hosts, Derek.
Hello there, fellow defenders. I am your other host, John.
Yes, just two of us on this one, which is really unusual for a Spider-Man podcast. We usually have all three of us here, particularly because our third host, Chris, is the biggest Spider-Man fan in the world.
He certainly is, but he is dealing with his own little Miles at the moment.
Yes, he is a brand new baby born to Chris this week and his wife, Cal. Congratulations to both Chris and Cal. Delighted for you. Can't wait to meet little Miles. Yes, he has been named Miles after Miles Morales.
Yes, but with a Y. With a Y.
Yes.
So yes, massive congratulations to Chris and Callie and little Miles.
Yeah, we're delighted. So Chris will, of course, be taken up with the brand new baby over the next while, but he will pop in and out of the podcast, of course, as always, when he's free. But other priorities, of course, will take over from podcasting for Chris for a little while.
Yes,
Like
it will
sleeping.
be sleeping, nappies, and of course it brings to mind the famous Jeff Goldblum quote from Jurassic Park.
Life finds a way.
Well, that, but I was thinking of now that's what I call a pile of...
Of course, yes, that great big popular quote.
Yes.
Of course. Yes. So, Chris, I'm sure, and Cal are completely inundated with nappies at the moment, but we are very happy for them, and I'm sure we'll be changing our fair share of Miles's nappies over the years.
Absolutely, yes. But let us get on to our spoiler-filled review of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, the second animated movie in a trilogy.
Mm-hmm. In the Spider-Verse trilogy, yeah.
In the Spider-Verse trilogy, exactly. If you are new to TV Podcast Industries, please head on over to our website at tvpodcastindustries.com. We, of course, cover movies, but also TV shows. Our next one coming up will be Marvel's Secret Invasion.
Yes, it will.
So,
Nick
of course.
Fury is back.
Yes, Derek is getting very excited about that.
Oh, yes.
But, of course, we love hearing feedback, thoughts, comments, theories, you name it, Easter eggs, all that kind of stuff. So, of course, you can send in any thoughts that you have on anything that we cover to feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com. And, of course, we are over on Facebook at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries.
Yes, and a reminder, if you do go over to TV Podcast Industries, go on to the movies section on there, and you'll have the coverage that we've done of all the Spider movies so far. We have, of course, covered Into the Spider-Verse, the first of this trilogy, all the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies, and pretty much all of his other MCU appearances as well. So yeah, go over and check them out there. But really looking forward to talking about Across the Spider-Verse. We were lucky enough to go and see a preview of this on Thursday night, the night before it came out. Courtesy of Sony Ireland, so thank you very much to Sony Ireland for that. It was really interesting because it would be different to the way we usually watch the movies. We usually kind of try and find a time to go and see them premiere night, usually less kids in there. But this time there was lots of kids.
Yeah, really, really good.
And isn't it really good to see this kind of movie with kids?
Definitely. Really buzzing atmosphere, lots of excitement, and yeah, really a good fun time in the cinema, jam-packed as well.
Yeah.
So yeah, really enjoyed this. So yeah, a big thank you to Sony for those invites.
Yeah.
Really good of you.
Yeah, and a free beer. It's quite
And
nice.
a free beer. Well, a couple of beers, in fact.
Absolutely. Before we go into any spoiler-filled thoughts about it, what did you think overall of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse? Do you recommend that our listeners on TV podcast industries go and see the movie?
Oh, without a shadow of a doubt, it is absolutely, from my side, taking off where the previous Into the Spider-Verse left. This is such a good animated movie, but a movie just in its own right. Loved every bit of it. It's lovely and sweet. It's emotional. It's dark. It's uplifting. It's just downbeat at times. I think Chris would absolutely love this.
100%.
And I just think it's such a good style of animation. I love the writing in this. It feels really young, energetic, quippy. I just really, really enjoy it all. So yeah, I found it quite overwhelming actually, to try and take everything in.
Oh yes.
It's very fast paced, but it's also a long movie as well. So, you know, I felt like I needed to blink at the shutter speed of the, the cinema projector so that I could actually kind of keep up with how fast paced this was. Lots of swinging.
Yes,
lots
listeners,
of action.
We are that old that we remember projectors in cinemas rather than digital projectors. Yes,
exactly.
yes, the shutter speed. But yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It is relentless from the beginning. And I would say I've seen a few comments from some of our listeners who watched the first one and didn't like it. We've got on record really here at TV Podcast Industry saying it's our favourite of the Spider-Man movies, Into the Spider-Verse. This is probably up there. It continues the story really well. I obviously have to watch it as many times as I've watched Into the Spider-Verse, but after the first viewing of this, you could feel this is something really special. It kept the heart, they kept the characterization, kept the comedy, and added a bit more darkness to it for this middle part. So, highly recommend it.
It's absolutely rammed to the rafters with heart and soul, this. And dare I say it, for me, I would actually say this is joint first with Into the Spider-Verse. I think this is shaping up to just be a really sweet spot of a trilogy, if they keep it together for the third movie. These two really have enjoyed. And interestingly, we were only just discussing that Into the Spider-Verse came out in 2018.
That's right, yeah.
So, you know, we have 5 years here since we last sort of went to the cinema to see this event as well, you know?
Absolutely. And two more things, but in the spoiler-free section, just to mention, which do lead in quite well to what you're saying about 2018 being the last one. The announcement of Beyond the Spider-Verse, the final part of it, the date has been released. It's coming out in March, I think March 24th. 2024, so not that long to wait until the next part of the series comes out, because obviously they made these at the same time in the studio,
which is really good given the ending. Which,
we'll get there, but mentioning endings though, there are no post-credit scenes at all. There is a beautiful animation of all the cast and characters, but there's no post-credit scenes, nothing at the end, and no mid-credit scenes at all, other than that announcement of Beyond the Spider-Verse, which we knew was coming.
Well, fellow defenders, dare I say it, they do a really sort of innovative thing. I don't think it's ever been done before. The post-credits are actually in the movie.
In the movie itself,
they actually incorporate them into the nuts and bolts, meat and two veg of the old movie.
Yeah.
Yes, what a strange thing to do.
I know, it hasn't actually been done in a Marvel movie since Endgame, I believe, was the last time they had a movie that didn't have a post-credit scene.
Yeah. So, well, I'm quite pleased they did, actually, because it really helped with the ending.
Yeah.
To be honest.
Absolutely.
So, anyway, I think that's enough spoiler-free.
Yes.
Let us get into our spoiler-filled discussion of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Absolutely, yes. But as we said, go see the movie and then come back and join us for the rest of the spoiler-filled discussion.
Yes. Derek, give us some of the production details on this epic.
Absolutely, yes. 3 new directors on board for this one. There were 3 directors on the previous movie, but these are 3 brand new directors for this second part of the trilogy. Joaquim Santos was a director on lots of DC animated movies, one of the directors here. Kemp Powers was a writer and co-director on the Pixar movie Soul, and interestingly, he also wrote the play and movie One Night in Miami, a really interesting movie. Highly recommend that. And Soul is fantastic.
Yeah.
Really, really enjoyed Soul. So definitely 2 to check out from Kemp Powers. The third and final director on this movie was Justin K. Thompson. He was a production designer on Into the Spider-Verse and has now been raised up to director.
Cool, excellent stuff.
Very cool. I know he nominated for a number of awards for his production design on the first movie. So
great stuff. Yeah. Love a bit of internal promotion there.
Good, isn't it?
Yeah, good stuff.
And the writers on this movie are, this time, Phil Lord and Chris Miller with Dave Callaham. Interestingly, we mentioned last time that Phil Lord was one of the writers on this movie, and he usually does work with Chris Miller, but Miller actually didn't get a credit as a writer on the last movie, but they're working together in this one. They're most well known for their Lego movies. Of course, the Lego Movie and Lego Batman.
Yes, everything is awesome.
Yes, which would explain the big Lego Spider-Man sequence in this movie too.
Excellent. Yeah, exactly.
And the other writer on this movie, Dave Callaham, we've spoken about him a number of times for lots of superhero movies that he's done, including Wonder Woman as well. But most recently, he wrote the excellent Marvel movie Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings, which is up there with one of our favourites of this most recent phase of Marvel.
Yeah. Great stuff.
So great to have him on board.
Yeah, good little writing team there, and really comes through as well. I just thought the dialogue was so snappy. Mm-hmm. It was brilliant. And I think, I have to go and see this again because it is so action-packed and really quite fast-paced as well. Lots of great quippy dialogue, which just kind of accelerates past you whilst you're watching it. Absolutely. Certainly, I guess when we did, which was kind of right after work, so I was still kind of like going...
Still thinking about spreadsheets, John, were you?
Yeah, how sad. Not even the beer managed to sort of erase that from my mind.
Well, we will hopefully erase that with the podcast that we're doing.
Absolutely.
Tonight. And I do want to mention some of the excellent cast that's in the movie as well. Wow, they really did line up some big talent for this movie. Of course, Shamik Moore back playing Miles Morales, Haley Steinfeld back as Gwen Stacy, and Jake Johnson back as Peter B. Parker. But also added to the cast this time around is Oscar Isaac as Miguel O'Hara, or Spider-Man 2099. We, of course, covered Moon Knight starring Oscar Isaac in a number of roles back then as well. So great to see him jumping over into another role in Marvel.
Yeah, definitely.
Someone else who's jumped over into another role in Marvel is Karan Soni, who plays Spider-Man India.
Yes.
Yeah.
From Deadpool.
He played the taxi driver in Deadpool, yes.
And indeed, dare we say it, another one who has jumped over from, I guess, Marvel Studios into Sony Marvel. Collaboration here is Daniel Kaluuya as Spider-Punk.
Yeah, it took me a while to catch him and his accent, because he's doing his proper London accent in here, or even a more exaggerated London accent here as Spider-Punk. So that was quite cool.
Definitely. I think as well, the other person who I didn't catch at all in terms of the intonation of the voice, which you really recognise, is Andy Samberg as well, who is Ben Reilly.
Yes, Dad, whatever. Yes, I loved his Ben Reilly. It was great to see Andy Samberg in there. Issa Rae plays Jessica Drew, a great favourite Spider-Woman. Jessica Drew, a former S.H.I.E.L.D. agent, Sean. So cool to have Jessica Drew in this movie here. And the final member of the main cast for this is Jason Schwartzman as the Spot, who starts out as being a very small part of this and becomes a very big part of this.
Yes.
But John, do you want to tell us what they gave us with your synopsis for Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse?
Sure. 16 months after the destruction of the Alchemax Collider and back on Earth-65, Gwen Stacy is struggling to live up to the expectations of her father, who does not know she is Spider-Woman and is hunting her in revenge because of his belief that she caused this universe's Peter Parker's death. One night after hearing about a possible intruder in the Guggenheim Museum, she heads over to confront the threat, only to run into a Renaissance-themed vulture that comes from an alternate universe. She is helped by Miguel O'Hara and Jessica Drew, who arrive through portals and subdue Vulture. In the aftermath, Gwen reveals herself to her father, who is distraught and attempts to arrest her. Drew suggests to a reluctant O'Hara that Gwen join the Spider Society, to which he begrudgingly accepts. Back on Earth 1610 in Brooklyn, Miles Morales is adapting to being Spider-Man, as well as struggling to live up to his parents' expectations while missing Gwen Stacy. On the day of his evaluation at school with his parents, he visits a convenience store where he encounters the low-level villain The Spot, a scientist who got infused with portals on his body in the aftermath of the explosion of the Collider at Alchemax. After a brief fight, Miles subdues the Spot. But the Spot is being surveilled by Gwen and is not all that he appears, as he blames Miles for his creation. He brings Miles to Alchemax, where he transports himself into a void and begins using his portals to travel to other universes with the Alchemax Collider, becoming more and more powerful as he states his aim to take revenge on his nemesis, Miles Morales. While on Earth 1610, Gwen sees Miles while she's tracking the Spot, but is instructed that Miles can't travel with them to capture him. While Drew and Miguel take a portal back to Earth 928, where they lead the Spider Society to continue their investigation, unbeknownst to them and Gwen, Miles follows them into the portal and ends up in Mumbattan on Earth 50101. They encounter Pavitar Prabhakar, Spider-Man India, and Hobie Brown, Spider-Punk, before confronting the Spot in the Alchemax Collider, who successfully absorbs the device's power before escaping. Mumbattan begins falling apart from the disruption of a canon event, after Miles saves a captain who turns out to be Prabhakar's girlfriend's father. At the headquarters on Earth 928, where hundreds of Spider-Man variants reside, Miguel O'Hara tells Miles that he is risking the destruction of the multiverse by preventing canon events that hold the fabric of the multiverse together, and that all Spider-Men must suffer sacrifices to maintain a stable multiverse. Realizing that his own father, newly appointed as captain, will die at the hands of the Spot, and is his canon event, Miles breaks free of the Spider Society, heading back to his homeworld to save his father. Arriving back in what he thinks is his apartment, Miles realizes that something is not right about this Earth that places him and his father in deep trouble.
Mm-hmm. Excellent stuff. Lots of multiversal traveling, lots of different universes, and hundreds of Spider-Men and women,
lots of
and
Spider-Men.
people, and animals as well. Loads of spider creatures too. There is
Spider-Men, Spider-Women, Spider-Bots, Spider-Animals, Spider-Entities.
Absolutely. Spider-Babies.
Yep, you name it. If it can be a spider,
Yep.
It is.
Absolutely.
Loads of them.
Absolutely. So there is no possible way that on this podcast we could capture all of the Easter eggs in the movie. We will come across a few of them here and there as we go through them. We'd love you to send in what your favourite moments were, your favourite Easter eggs that are in there. But I think there's something in there for everybody. I think the last count, I think, was 120 different spider people.
Yeah.
So we're definitely not going to be listing off them, but we will come across some of them, of course, as we go through. Let's start off with our first point, our point number 1 about Across the Spider-Verse. Let's start off with one of the spider people, Gwen.
Yes, it's kind of the opening of this movie, really focusing on Gwen. You know, Gwen trying to find a band, I guess I would describe it.
Right.
You have this great drumming sequence where, you know, she's just outplays her welcome, I guess, with the band that's there. She
Absolutely.
continues past the end of the song. And, you know, you see she's missing Miles, now that she's back on Earth-65. There's, you've had the death of that Earth's Peter Parker,
Yes.
which her father holds, Spider-Gwen responsible, not knowing that Spider-Gwen is in fact his daughter.
Yes.
And so, you know, even though her father doesn't realize the issues in that, it plays and weighs heavy on Gwen's mind, this relationship.
Absolutely.
You know, he's vehemently, almost Jonas Jonasson, you know, against Spider-Woman here. Given the death of Peter Parker, you know, you kind of see the flashback to him enjoying a meal at their table and all that, and also not realizing that this Peter Parker took a vial of potion to turn him into the lizard, it looked like.
Yeah, something very similar. He basically did the same type of experiment that Kirk Connors did in himself to turn himself into the lizard. And he did it because he was being bullied in school. So this is not a Peter Parker that was that was bitten by a radioactive spider. He doesn't get that storyline effectively. This Peter Parker is the best friend of Gwen. It seems like their family have known each other for years. We see Aunt May over there for dinner with Peter at the start. But an interesting story in itself about that Peter Parker, that, you know, if Peter had been pushed the wrong way and used his science to try and turn on his bullies, that this is what could have happened to him. He gets himself into a really bad situation and dies.
In a sense, emulate most of Spider-Man's enemies and nemesis, or nemesis, I guess, in that they're primarily scientists where the experiment goes out of control. So it was really good. I kind of really enjoyed this because I certainly wasn't expecting it to be focusing on Gwen, actually. So it was a nice little surprise at the start of the movie.
She was a real standout in the last movie, so you can kind of see why they moved the focus to both of them, Miles and Gwen. This, even though there's hundreds of characters here, it does seem to be their film.
Yeah, absolutely. Most, and you know, here you have her sort of, you know, pining in a sense after Miles, at least the adventures that they had.
Absolutely, she really does miss Miles, and I must say, this opening sequence to start the movie this way with Gwen on drums with her band telling her story over this really rocking drum beat. It's really cool, really bombastic, takes you right into the action, even though it's not an action sequence. And I love even the quick discussion with the band where they're going, why are you in a band if not to make friends? Just kind of going, no, I just want to hit my feelings with these sticks. That's kind of what she wants to do, is just beat the drums, because she's so angry at everything that's gone on, losing her best friend and now losing Miles, the only other friend that she has. I love that as a setup for Gwen's character in the movie.
And of course, in this opening sequence, before the opening credits, actually, then we get to see problems happening with the multiverse, with glitching, as we get a Renaissance Vulture Man at the Guggenheim. And
that was so cool.
It was really cool.
We talked about the animation a lot into the Spider-Verse, and just kind of said, you know, it looks great, but another really cool idea here, having this Renaissance drawing of the Vulture and things bleeding in that look like Leonardo da Vinci's drawings in his diaries of his type of artwork. That's what it looks like, where you have this Vulture. And I love that Gwen picks up on it really quickly because she's very smart and is kind of going, let me guess, you're from a universe that is based in the Renaissance, and you've been drawn effectively by an Italian Renaissance artist.
I mean, that's it. I mean, I think I find it really difficult to describe the animation here because it's so diverse. I mean, the main thing is that you've got the comic book Andy Warhol dots always pervading at the back of it, no matter what's happening.
Yes.
It's hugely colourful. It's really amazing. And I don't know how you conceive of that as an animator, not being one, or even as a director, about how you decide what that particular style is. But it's so good. It's so interesting. It really is so visual.
That's fabulous.
It's
fabulous.
Just really, really good.
And there's
but
definitely
it's difficult to describe it.
Yeah, and there's definitely moments in the IMAX when I was watching it where I was looking at different corners of the screen, because there's so much going on as well in a lot of the scenes. So many things going on, especially when we get to the Spider Society. There's so much going on that you can really focus on little individual areas. Quickly, I do want to say to our listeners, apologies. You may hear some banging in the background. Our neighbours decided to do some work because it's a bank holiday weekend here. He decided to work in his
what
truck
else would you be doing
on a Friday evening? We thought we'd be recording late enough that we wouldn't have that. But hey, look, I hope you don't mind. Hope it's not too distracting.
What else would you be doing at 7:45 on a Friday?
Exactly.
Other than banging the hell out of your van.
Yeah, we'd usually be in the pub.
Anyway,
this movie's good enough to talk about it on a podcast.
Exactly. But the other interesting thing as well is here, coming to the aid here, the introduction of the other parts of the Spider-Verse is Miguel O'Hara and Jessica Drew.
Yes, Spider-Man 2099, who we saw in the post-credit scene of the first movie.
Yes.
Just saw him in there, played by Oscar Isaac at that time, coming in now, again, fulfilling a big role in this movie. And
Absolutely.
Jessica Drew, who, again, as I mentioned, one of the most famous Spider people in comics, has had many comic books featuring her as Spider-Woman.
So we get them introduced really quickly to capture the Vulture, and effectively to take him back to his own time and to sort of mend that anomaly within the Spider-Verse. So the other side of this then, before she goes with them, is the realization that her father is so hell-bent on getting this Earth Spider Woman to the point that when she reveals her identity, he is still says, you know, put your hands up. You know, he's going to take her in. Yeah.
I love that there is the joke there where he says, put your hands up. And then he says, get on the floor. And she goes, which one is?
Yeah.
Can't do both.
No, exactly. But it propels her to leave her universe, her Earth, and her father here.
And go under the wing of Jessica Drew.
Yeah. So, you know, it's really poignant. And I think this is one of the other really fantastic things, about this movie. It is, and I read it there on Twitter from someone, you come out of it feeling, and partly why I would say Chris would love this, like, it's so family orientated. It does feel, certainly with Miles and his parents, just sort of a way of parenting that is full of trust and love.
Absolutely.
And it shows the other side of it with Gwen and her father and that relationship. And, you know, it really does sort of nail, the different dynamics of families, certainly families with Spider-Man, involved in them. But I really did think that was good. And there is a moment where Gwen revisits, Earth-65 and comes face to face back with her father after she's been kicked out of the Spider Society by Miguel for not stopping Miles in his escape. Yeah, and you know, you can see it just that troubled relationship, but one where he's quite despondent down in his luck. He with the arrival back of Gwen, that's his moment where he decides to leave the police force in the middle of that conversation. Yeah. And, you know, there is this reconciliation here between the two of them, which is just so nice. You know, those differences that get overcome, you know, as he realizes, you know, his daughter is more important to him than his badge. Yeah. And yeah, it was just really interesting.
And she
really
equates
nice.
What she's doing and helping people to the fact that he's inspired her to do it as well. So she's using her powers for good as well. Great opening. Really, really enjoyed spending some time with Gwen in this opening scene. It felt like we got much more of her character in this movie rather than just being the visitor from another universe. One thing I definitely want to highlight, though, is it took me a little while to get it, that the events at the end of Into the Spider-Verse, where they effectively take out Kingpin when he's trying to use the portals, is what sets up everything in this movie. That's from that point onwards. That's why Miguel had to set up the Spider Society, traveling all of these portals and all of these different multiverses, fixing things that are falling through to other universes because of what happened at the end of the first movie. So had they not had that battle at Alchemax in the first movie, the events happening here and the Spider Society itself wouldn't have had to be created. Yeah. So I thought that was really interesting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice way to lead on from your first movie.
But let us move on to our point number 2. To Miles Morales on his Earth 1610.
Yes.
Yes.
Our 15-year-old Miles Morales. So a little bit older.
A little bit wiser.
A little bit more experienced.
For sure.
I would say he's spent the last year, I'm not sure about wiser, but he spent the last year being Spider-Man, and working through his grades. We see this moment where he's traveling through the city trying to get to the meeting with his parents, a very important meeting in the school about his grades and what he's going to go on to do in the future. This is really important to his character in this movie. This is his growth, effectively. But there's kind of the comments made of how much he's grown up now. He's growing into his own man, but his parents are still treating him like a child, not knowing all the stuff that he's going through, not knowing all the things that he's doing and the responsibility that he has on himself. as Spider-Man, you know?
Yeah.
He is the only Spider-Man, as they say, in this universe. So there is no other Spider-Man. He's the one that's doing everything to save Brooklyn and to save New York. So I like that there's this quandary between the two things, and he gets the balance wrong, which I like here. The idea is that he runs into, what he thinks is just a really bad villain trying to steal an ATM from a bodega. Thinks of him as just a guy with really bad powers, not much of a threat, fights him off, and then gets away so that he can get to this meeting with his parents. But because he does that and doesn't treat him with the balanced heroing that he should have treated him with, it sets out all the events in motion, because this guy, turns out, he believes he is Miles Morales, Spider-Man's nemesis.
Yes, this is the Spot.
Yes, exactly.
Little leaking over into our point 3, I guess, which is unavoidable, I think, with these 2 points, because they're ultimately, within this movie, Miles Morales and the Spot become ever and greater intertwined together. And I really actually thought this was a great dynamic, because from the trailers, you see elements of this first meeting in the convenience store between Miles and the Spot. And, you know, there's the quippy lines of, are you supposed to be a Dalmatian? You know, all that kind of stuff. Yeah. And it does. It's like, this is low-level, super villain, easy to take out, and treats him just really leisurely, in a sense.
Yes. Well, it's just a stupid thing that he's doing. Like, he's leaning up against the pan of bread, and the bread's falling through his stomach because it's transporting through the portals.
Yeah.
He's no real idea how best to use all of these portals. So loads of little moments of like legs sticking out the wrong place. And,
exactly. It is funny, and you can see why Miles is doing that. But I just love how, with this villain, with the Spot, they develop through this. You get the backstory here on him being in the lab. That's why he's covered with these portals. And it is that inexperience of Miles, not understanding effectively what he's unleashing here. And the Spot also being more embedded in Miles's own story than he at this point knows. So I really kind of like that, because I just thought, you know, from the teaser, you see this convenience store moment. You're kind of thinking, that's really funny. You see it here again. It's really funny. I mean, I loved how you have the Spot trying to effectively take out an ATM. Yeah. So he's got money.
Yeah. And not an ATM machine, remember? ATM.
Yeah, ATM, trying to steal that to get money. And I just loved how, you know, Miles has kind of spotted him as he's zipping past, and then immediately is doing a pasty in the microwave. I love how you see it all, him doing all that, and then casually eating a snack, whilst the owner of the place is trying to confront the Spot, and then Miles comes to confront him. And seemingly, you know, takes him a bit longer than he, I think, first thought, because as well, Miles is also going through the voids that are on the Spot's body. Yeah. And, I just thought this was really good. I loved the dynamic here of, you know, the hero and the villain. And again, the subverting of the expectation that this was just kind of a throwaway joke villain.
Absolutely. Here. And there are echoes to the origin story of Peter Parker, where Peter let a criminal escape and the criminal killed his Uncle Ben. Here, Miles lets the Spot go, thinking, sure, he's not much of a threat, and this could end the universe. Yeah. And, importantly for Miles, could kill his father. Yeah. So as
he tries to get to the meeting with his parents and his careers advisor, I guess.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's the other bit to talk about here. I thought this was really good fun. Really liked this. And to point out here, there's a great moment in the discussion between Miles and his parents and the career advisor who's talking through all of Miles' results. She's telling them, effectively, he's doing great in everything except for Spanish. And his parents speak Spanish fluently.
I think Puerto Rican.
His mom speaks it fluently. A great little moment in animation where she clicks her fingers at him to give out to him, and the Puerto Rican flag comes up in between her two fingers.
Absolutely.
Very cool. Why would he be failing Spanish? It's because, again, he's not getting the balance right. He's going, well, I should know Spanish because I speak it all the time at home, and he's going out adventuring as Spider-Man, effectively.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, neglecting something that he should be really good at, and really annoying his mom. So.
I think as well, there's really good moment with the careers advisor just saying, he's lying to you. You do know that. And that kind of, piques his mum's interest. At this stage, I think his dad has left because he's got to do a job. He's actually meeting Miles, and there's a really nice moment of them looking out across the city, having this conversation. It's just so beautifully awkward for Miles. Putting on the deeper voice, having these conversations with his dad, where his dad is talking about him in the third person, about what's just happened and so on. It's just really, really good.
Yeah.
And the expressions, I think, from the spider eyes also is they're just really, really, fantastically done. They really sort of show and purvey that emotion.
Absolutely. Just do a great job of the animation. It's kind of weird sometimes because we've seen so many Spider-Man movies, and some of the animations have everybody around in Spider-Man's family knows who they are. Other ones like this here, none of the family know, and you're kind of wondering, how do they not know? How are they not aware of what's going on here with Miles? But yeah, there's moments here where you're kind of thinking this is going to come out at some point. They're going to learn who Miles is and what he's doing.
And again, it's important for further down the road in the movie as well, towards the end.
Exactly. A couple of the things on this slightly more grown Miles. He is at that point in his life. He's 15 years old. And again, because he has the responsibility of being Spider-Man and is treated as an adult when he is Spider-Man, he feels at home he should be. And I think we were all at that stage around 15 years old where you're telling your parents, I'm not a child, when really you still are. You've still got quite a few more years in the US, even before you can get a driver's license. You got another year. No way you can move out your own at 15 years old. You still need your parents' guidance. But they're still treating him as a child. I absolutely love the moment when Miles says the one thing I think we've all said mistakenly at the wrong point to our parents. When his mother's giving out to him and he says, whatever, and everything stops. The whole neighborhood have heard it. All of his friends, everybody that's been invited over has heard Miles say the absolute wrong thing to his mother.
Absolutely.
And he can't backtrack quick enough. His father knows he's going to get it and he's going to be grounded for just even the guff that he's giving to his mother. I thought it's a moment that I think we all remember when we've said the wrong thing to our mother and drawn her ire.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Yeah, really well observed.
And this is all happening at a big barbecue to celebrate his dad's promotion effectively to captain in the police force. Again, coming back to the careers advisor, his mum ultimately thinks it involves a girl maybe, or it's something else. It's not that he is Spider-Man. Yeah. But we also see here in this Earth that Miles is missing Gwen as well, and Gwen shows up in Earth 1610 because she's tracking the Spot, and this is when this is one of the first hints that the Spot is something bigger than what we thought he was from the convenience store.
Exactly.
But they have a moment here where you can see Miles wanting to get closer. That awkward teenage mating, awkward teenage mating dance and dating game, I guess. But Gwen does really kind of put cold water on that. It's not in the same way, enough for him to withdraw. But it's a lovely moment where they're sort of upside down on a building, sort of just looking out across the city. It's just really fantastically done.
It is. She even says to him, in every other universe I've visited, Gwen Stacy fell for Peter Parker in her universe, fell for Spider-Man in her universe. At least we're not like that, because it always ends in failure. And Miles responding with, but there's always hope it'll be different. So Miles kind of wearing his heart in his sleeve. I think she knows. I think Gwen knows.
Yeah,
but
I think so.
I don't think she wants to trust it because she's probably seen at this stage how badly it's gone in other places.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So is there anything else on Miles here?
The only other tiny thing is just, I don't know, is a side character, but connected with the story of Miles is Genki, who in the comic books is Miles' man in the chair. We saw that in the Tom Holland movies. His best friend fulfills that role, even though he's not called Genki. But Genki is Miles' roommate. And I love that he's still not involved in Miles Morales' story in any way. He's stealing his shoes from him. That's basically it. And you hear a conversation between the two of them through a door where Genki's going, I know the slippery slope. If I help you once, then I'm sitting at a computer, then I help you again, and then I'm the man in the chair. That's not going to happen. So he's even referencing what the character in the comic book becomes. But just a nice little touch of a reference to the character. This movie is completely stuffed full of characters.
Absolutely.
And they at least give a little moment to Genki there. So
stuff with characters, stuff with references. It's really sort of densely packed here with all of this stuff.
It is.
But I think we can move on to point 3, which is, I guess, our third spot here. It is the spot.
You've talked a little bit about him.
It is the reason why Gwen is really there in Earth 1610 is because of the Spot and the danger that he poses to the Spider-Verse, to the multiverse.
Yes.
And I think, like I was saying before, with the convenience store meeting between the Spot and Miles, it's just really a nice little twist, really. And I think it's one of a few twists here in this movie.
Oh, yeah.
Where he is the bigger villain. He is the one who got caught up in the destruction of the Alchemax explosion at the end of Into the Spider-Verse, which has left him in this state of not really knowing what to do with all these voids that have appeared on his body.
Well, yeah. Well, he says, I lost my face and then I lost my job. And I love how it comes back to that later on. He tells this really sad story of, well, it's not like I'm able to work when I look like this. I have to do something to get money. I have to do something to feed myself. And it's kind of taken as a joke the first time he says it. But later on, when he goes through the full explanation of what's actually happened to him and all the rest of the scientists at the Alchemax, and what they did to him, pushing him out, laughing at him for what happened to him in this accident. And then you see the other reveal of this, that he's also the one that brought the spider from Earth-42 that infected Miles Morales, turning him into Spider-Man. So it's a double origin story here, effectively.
Yeah.
We now know without this guy, Miles wouldn't be who he is, and without Miles, the Spot wouldn't be the Spot.
Yeah.
And he now blames Miles for all of that.
Yeah. And it is that he gradually sort of understands what he can do with these voids, and they can effectively help him to travel through the multiverse in the same way as Miguel's and Jessica's portal watch that they have. And so he is traveling around all the different Earths in order to go to the Alchemax facilities on these different Earths in order to grow his power more by effectively destroying them at each turn. And become more powerful so that he can ultimately take his revenge on Miles, who from his side destroyed his life. And so it's just a really good little twist. As I said, for me, watching the teaser before going into this movie, you do just think this is that kind of initial takedown of a low-level criminal or villain. And here it just snowballs into something much, much bigger. That really has the consequences for the multiverse, and for Miles personally, because of this spider traveling through from Earth-42 to 1610. Technically, that spider was never supposed to be in 1610.
Exactly.
But that spider has left Earth-42. There is no radioactive spider for Earth-42. So it's really, it really sort of, layers into the story that moves forward with the Spider Society, with these anomalies and so on. But, the initial travel is where they go to Mumbattan, to Earth 15101. it sort of gradually snowballs, and it starts off by going to Mumbattan to Earth-65 101, where we get to see Spider-Man India and Spider-Punk that Miles encounters there. Yeah. He shouldn't be there either. This is all opening up to him what this society is doing, but that is led by Miguel, that they are able to portal to these different universes.
Yeah.
And in this case, if they are tracking the Spot and what he's doing.
Yes, I have to say, I love Mumbai. I think it's absolutely hilarious that effectively Indian society from Mumbai has now taken over Manhattan effectively. So, and there's a great joke there. I lived in Mumbai for a while, work. There's a great joke there from Pavatar, the Indian Spider-Man that's here, where he's pointing to all the sights of the city and goes, over there's traffic, over there's traffic, over there's traffic. And that's exactly what Mumbai is like. I'm sure New York's quite similar to it, but that absolutely made me think of Mumbai.
Absolutely. And over there is where the English stole everything.
Exactly.
It's the other one as well.
Yes, great joke.
Just the colonial reference. So really good, like hugely vibrant. I really, really enjoyed this. And also then with Spider-Punk coming in as well.
Yes. A little
Hobie Brown.
Yeah, a little other type of antagonist for Miles, because we've heard that sometimes Gwen, since she no longer has her own universe to call her own, she sometimes stays over in Hobie's house. And when Miles meets him, he realizes Spider-Punk's pretty cool.
Yeah.
He's got the style about him. He's got the music about him. And of course, with Gwen being a drummer and him being a guitarist, you know, they probably jammed a few times, right? Let's keep it PG. So that's weighing in on him. And he is definitely one of my favorite characters in the movie, Hobie. Even though he only has a small amount of time on screen, he leaves a good impression while he's there. Yeah, really well played.
Absolutely. I loved how he kind of flicked between the appearance of 2D, almost being like a poster on a wall from a music poster from the wall, to being 3D in look when back at the Spider Society. I thought it was really, really cool.
And that great moment where he takes off his spider mask and basically looks like Jimi Hendrix, and Miles looking at him going, how did you get even cooler when you took your mask off?
Exactly.
Is that possible? Yeah.
It was, and I think as well, just the anarchic tinge to him as well is really good. You just get all these kind of fatalistic kind of off comments being said as they're in the Spider Society.
Absolutely. I think Gwen has met her match. She may be in love with Miles. We don't know yet. She may think of Miles as just a friend, but she definitely got someone, another kindred spirit in Hobie as well. So, yeah.
But the big thing that happens in Mumbattan is the emergence of an anomaly within the Spider-Verse, because to Miles' character, he looks to save a girl and a police captain as the Mumbattan is beginning to kind of almost fall into one of the Spot's voids that has been left there with the destruction of the Alchemax collider there. And in doing so, we learn of the canon events that occur through the timeline through every Spider-Man, woman, animal, bot, you name it, these canon events. And in this moment, unbeknownst to Miles, he is saving Pavatar's girlfriend's father, who is a captain in Mumbattan's police force.
Yes. His Captain Stacy, if you will. Yes.
There's a really good moment where, when this has been explained, the whole concept of canon events by Miguel to Miles, you get some really nice sort of intermingling of the live action here, such as from Amazing Spider-Man, where we have the death of Captain Stacy, played by Dennis Leary, in The Amazing Spider-Man.
Yeah.
And it's just really kind of cool how they sort of insert that into the animation.
It works really well because you've got so many different styles of animation, and then it bleeds into these live action moments. We see the death of Uncle Ben. Cliff Robertson played him in the Tobey Maguire movies. You see moments with Tobey Maguire and Andrew Garfield there, sprinkled amongst all of the other versions of the Spider-Man. So cool to have that. I didn't see any moments of Tom Holland's Spider-Man in there, but I know they referenced Doctor Strange and that Spider-Man.
They certainly did,
adventures in the multiverse. So
maybe he should be a doctor.
Maybe exactly. But it was interesting
and
to reference to them.
And they got the Earth number wrong.
They got the Earth number, the original one, didn't
Yes.
they? And in Multiverse Madness, it's called 616. But this movie, as an animation, was written a long time before that, so they didn't get the change. They didn't get the extra change over to that. I think we all prefer when it wasn't 616 in the MCU. For the nerds of us, because that's supposed to be comic books. But anyway, we'll leave that discussion, or just go back and listen to Multiverse of Madness podcast, and you'll hear that too. But I love those moments. I love that they're able to incorporate it, and they're trying to incorporate every different type of the spider people, I guess, in this universe. We'll move on to talking a bit about that in our point number 4.
Or
anything else about the spot before we go on?
No, I think so. I think that, the spot here is just simply becoming, by colliding and destroying these Alchemax pieces of equipment, the collider, he's absorbing more and more of this void power. Yeah. And he's becoming more and more powerful in his stated attempt to wreak havoc down on Miles. Absolutely. So, he becomes a big bad, ultimately, in the end, and incredibly powerful, even that he can void his way through to different universes. But let us go on to point 4. Let us void our way to point 4 with Miguel O'Hara and his spider team. Yeah, we have to talk about Miguel, because you mentioned earlier on about the teaser of that scene with the Spot where you thought he was the low-level villain, and in the teasers you got the feeling, and the trailers you got the feeling, that Miguel O'Hara here, Spider-Man 2099, is the villain of the movie. He's just an antagonist. There's nothing particularly wrong with what he's saying. Really, from his knowledge, there's nothing particularly wrong with what he's saying, but he's an antagonist in that he's standing in the way of what Miles wants to do. But he's not a villain here. None of the Spider people are villains. Yeah. He has a different logic and perspective at what is unfolding here around the canon events.
I do love that they're called canon events as well. I think that's a really good joke back at the fans. Don't change the canon. The canon is sacrosanct. But when you're talking about hundreds of different Spider people, it's almost impossible. So they go, right, we've pinned that there are a canon event for each of these people that made them become who they are. So those have to stay as they are, but we can play around with everything else. Interestingly, though, I had thought that the death of Miles Morales' uncle Aaron was his canon event. Was the death of him is what spurred him on to become Miles Morales Spider-Man, which we saw in the first movie. And in here, they're establishing that he's supposed to lose somebody else now. He's supposed to lose his father. That's supposed to be his canon event. And he can't be allowed to go back and stop that from happening, or else it may destroy the multiverse. Well, that's it. Well, ultimately, what it transpires down to is that the death of his Uncle Aaron wasn't the canon event. It seems like it. It seemed like it at the time from the first movie, but actually the strictness of it, of these canon events, and what we learn from Miles through Miguel O'Hara, whether it's out of desperation, because it is in a moment where, after learning what these canon events are, knowing that his father has just been promoted to captain back on Earth 1610, Miles wants to go back to save his father. Yes. And that is what spurs off then Miguel O'Hara, because these are canon events. They have to happen. These are the moments that have to happen in every Spider-Man, whether it's Uncle Ben, whether it's the police officer captain, whether it's the death of Aunt May for Tom Holland. Aunt May. All these things, this event must happen, and he's going to try and prevent it again, like what happened in Mumbattan. So can I pose something? Absolutely, pose away. This whole situation was caused by the event that happened in, as we said, Miles's version of Earth, that attack on the Kingpin, that explosion at Alchemax, this has kicked out the multiverse. It's causing anomalies everywhere. I'm proposing that Miguel O'Hara is making it up as he goes along. He's making estimations as to what are canon events because of the experience that he's had with all the rest of the Spider people. He has hundreds of them that he's talked to. The death of their significant person in their life is the canon event. Because Miles says to him at one point, but how do you know for definite that me stopping the death of my father would end the universe? He says that to Miguel. Miguel doesn't really answer him. He says it's a canon event. It has to happen. There's no way out of this.
Yeah.
But I think that's where we're getting to the next movie. But
absolutely,
but Miles isn't wrong here. But from Miguel's perspective, he feels your father's becoming the captain. That's definitely the canon event. He's going to die.
Exactly.
And there's nothing you should do about it.
And it's actually, so the reason why the death of Miles's dad could be the canon event and not necessarily his uncle's, but equally, the knowledge of what Miguel says to Miles could also mean that then this isn't a canon event, is the fact that Miguel tells Miles as he's chasing him down, as they're fighting, as Miles is trying to get back to Earth, 1610, is that he is the mistake.
Yes.
He is the Spider-Man that was never supposed to be, never supposed to happen on his Earth because it was a spider from Earth 42. And so...
there's no other Miles Morales Spider-Man.
Yeah, so there is... The uncle's death was not the canon, but he's projecting that his dad's death would be the canon event now that happens.
Yeah.
But also, equally, if it was never supposed to happen, it might not be a canon event. So they're both looking at it from those different perspectives, and it's absolutely fantastic. I love this, because, I mean, it's all in the heat of action, and this chase to stop Miles from getting back, to stop him stopping the canon event.
Yeah. And let's just make sure we underline this as well. Miguel O'Hara hates Miles Morales. Miguel O'Hara lost his child and his wife because of what happened in Miles' universe. That's why he never wanted Miles to be involved in the Spider team. What Miles did caused the loss of his family. He even tried to go into another universe to get back what he'd lost, and that universe collapsed because it wasn't supposed to happen. So effectively, in Miguel's head, this is all Miles' fault. Yeah. So he's almost, even if it's not a canon event that his father's going to die, it's almost like Miguel's going to saying to him, well, you have to be punished for what you did, and look what I lost. You can lose your father to save the universe.
And again, linking to the Spot who brought that spider through in the first place. So it's just, I love just how this is structured, how it all builds up, and it's
quite complicated.
It is quite complicated.
And we said we were at the cinema with lots of kids, lots of families, and who brought their kids along. I remember hearing a kid from about 2 hours behind me, probably about 5 or 6 years old, looking at the screen with Miles, Gwen, Miguel, Peter B. Parker all up on screen, and he turned around to his dad and said, "Where's Spider-Man?" And I just thought that question on its own, an hour and a half into a movie that has about 40 Spider-Men. Yeah. The poor father, I have no idea what he actually said to his son there. What his response to his son was. It did make me laugh, though. Yeah. Poor 6-year-old was getting very confused as to what is Spider-Man when you have hundreds of them on screen.
Absolutely. I mean, I think the other thing here is, we have Peter B. Parker here at the Spider Society. There is Gwen. But
Peter B. Parker with his little baby too.
Yeah, with his new baby girl. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. But what I love here is that, this society has formed around the principles of Miguel O'Hara, and, Miles feels that both Peter B. Parker and Gwen are actually are seeing it from Miguel's point of view.
Yeah.
In the end, it's not quite as simple as that. They do have the old alliance from the first movie. Those allegiances are there, but they are trying to also dissuade Miles from effectively saving his father.
Well,
I mean, there's a great moment as he's being chased down. Miguel is kind of almost like has got him by the throat and the head, where he's trying to plead with Miles, vehemently, you cannot do this. in the sort of headquarters of the Spider Society on Earth 928.
Yeah.
Whereas Miles is just saying, why can't I do both?
Yeah.
You know, I can stop my dad dying and I won't create the anomaly. I can stop the spot and everything else around
Absolutely.
it. And it's just really like, it is so fantastically done through this whole chase sequence.
Yeah.
Where effectively it's all being explained out in the chase sequence, and it's really good.
We're going to take a diversion here, I think. That I love that storyline. I love what's going on with Miguel. I think they've given some great ideas to Oscar Isaac to play with in this character of how he's totally right in what he's saying, but he's taking out a lot on a 15-year-old kid here.
Yeah.
Love that, but let's divert a little bit into the Spider Society, because there is so much going on here. They do a quick kind of run through of some of the ones you'd recognize, and then there are literally hundreds behind.
The Spider Cat.
Do we have? Yeah, I was going to say one of the favorites is definitely Spider Cat, who pukes up a furball of webs into Miles's face. I thought that was really good fun.
Yeah.
Loved the moment, and I know we were all expecting it, where Miguel calls to all the Spider people to stop everything they're doing and go and chase down Spider-Man, and they all point at each other, hundreds and hundreds of them, doing the meme from that we've all seen, of 3 Spider people pointing at each other. Absolutely loved that. Thought that was great fun. The crashing through the psychiatrist office, where a crying Spider-Man is telling a psychiatrist Spider-Man that he's just lost his uncle and that he's just died, and the poor perturbed psychiatrist, who's obviously heard that from hundreds of other Spider people before. That was great fun. But so lively, so filled to every single corner, full of different versions of Spider people. Absolutely love this. We do get to see some of the Spider people that we've seen in the past as well in there. So that was really cool. And as you mentioned, of course, also the touch of having live action Spider people in there, including Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. Very cool.
Absolutely. It is jam packed with Spider-Man and so on. The other one as well is Spider-Bite.
Oh, yes,
who is kind of manning the control panel for these portals that are generated by the Spider-Man Society to travel through.
But she's literally sitting at home in her own universe on VR, going through to the Spider-Man Society, to the Spider Society, and controlling the stuff from home.
As a visual representation. Yeah. And interestingly, when Miles manages to escape, there is a moment where she could stop it. She could shut it all down, and she doesn't. So very interesting.
Absolutely. Reminded me of something out of Tron, the design of Spider-Bite.
Yeah.
That was very cool. Very cool. Any other Spider people that interested you in there, John?
I was surprised that we didn't have more Spider-Ham, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yes, that's true.
But
John Mulvaney not here for this movie?
No, but except for right at the end.
Yep.
But I just loved all this. It was just filled with so many spider things. It was just not true.
Yes, loads of spider things everywhere, really. But we definitely couldn't list all those. As I said, email us to feedback at tvpodcastindustries.com if you spotted a spider person or a spider creature that is your favourite.
Yeah, well, I needed to be, dare I say it, made of eyes.
Absolutely.
Like some spiders.
There was a couple of spider people that were made of eyes, definitely. I'm sure I saw the Spider-Man with the bag on his head in there. I think he's the one that joined the Fantastic Four, or sometimes known as Four Bush Man, but I could be wrong. My memory of 70s comic books is not that great. So anyway, that's the main section of the movie in the Spider Society. But Miles escapes and gets back to the machine to send him what he thinks back to his universe. But that little anomaly that Miguel has mentioned about the spider coming from Universe 42 messes with the calculations. And I think that takes us on to our final point, the setup for Beyond the Spider-Verse, because this is the setup, really. Miles is no longer back on his home universe. He's on in a different universe. Everything looks pretty similar to begin with. He arrives on what we know now is Earth-42, which is where the spider came from. Goes into his apartment, sees his mom there, and he's really happy to see her. She doesn't see much difference in him.
No.
Initially,
she doesn't, and it all seems fairly the same. Mm-hmm. It does feel like Earth 1610. But there is just this great moment where the spider senses start kicking in for Miles, where he realizes after he has just told his mum that he is Spider-Man, and she's kind of got no concept of what he's talking about.
Yeah.
As though this, that Spider-Man doesn't exist on this Earth, in this universe,
but
because
Comic-Cons do.
Yeah.
As she says, are you dressing up as a comic character? Yeah.
Yeah, but that's because Spider-Man doesn't exist. Spider-Man never happened. And it's just this great sequence of events, because initially it's all quite warming, because there is his Uncle Aaron there, alive.
Yes.
And he's all happy to see his uncle, but this realization, and then he gets he goes out with his uncle and is knocked out, and this is where we get the reveal that Miles in this universe has become the Prowler, with his uncle as his sidekick.
Yes, and his father is the one that died.
Yes, so there's you have this big mural during earlier in the movie of Uncle Aaron, because he's died at his brother's party for becoming the police captain, Miles's dad. And in this universe, that is replaced with Miles's dad as the mural, who has been killed, and with Miles as the Prowler. It's just so good. I really thought this was like fantastically done.
Yeah.
And interestingly, I was saying, this is quite a long movie, and I thought, oh my goodness, there's at least another 40 minutes possibly left in this movie. And, I was kind of getting the numb bum type of syndrome here. But it cuts here with Prowler Miles effectively about to kill this doppelganger that's appeared in his home, speaking to his mum. But just with, I think you described it as a little bit of hope, where Miles is charging himself up to sort of break through the chains and to escape. And then it goes to Gwen, because this is the moment, this is the same kind of time where it's jumping with, where Gwen has gone back to her Earth to speak to her dad, and you get that moment. And so after it's all sorted with her father, she goes to Earth-1610 to help Miles, but realizes that he's not there.
Yes.
I think Jessica Drew is also there as well. And realizing that he hasn't been returned to his Earth, forms, and I love this kind of touchback to right at the start, where she goes, and I formed my own band.
Yes.
Where she's got Spider Noir back there, the Spider Ham, there's the Spider Bots, the Japanese one with the girl inside. Yeah. But there is also
the new friends.
The new friends as well, yeah, absolutely. With Spider Bite is there, the one who didn't push the button to cancel everything, let Miles escape effectively from the Spider Society. Yep. She is there as well.
Spider-Punk.
Spider-Punk is there as well. So,
and Paveteer's there, of course.
Yeah, and Paveteer. Yep. So all kind of forming to come and help Miles.
Exactly. If they can find
him. Exactly. Yes. So, and you do see the Spot back on Earth-1610 as well, planning his revenge here. So there's real trouble for Miles's dad and for Miles, and it's a really good ending. It's kind of an ending I wasn't expecting at all. Yeah. I was thinking my bum was going to get even number. I have to say,
absolutely.
Whilst I was there in the cinema,
I think I would have watched more. I think I definitely would have watched more, but I know what you mean. It's not that the movie felt long; it just felt like I was sitting in the same position for quite a long time. That's all. It was so enjoyable. I love the little touch there, that the reason why she builds her own portal device effectively is from something that Hobie had said to her. Spider-Punk had said to her, "If you don't agree with what Miguel is doing, just build your own device." Like, it's so logical, because these are all very similar people, or a lot of them are very similar people, all very knowledgeable, very good at science. Miles particularly is very good at science, and Peter Parker is very good at science. Gwen's very good at science. So you build it, because Miguel built one.
Yeah.
He built enough for everybody. Go ahead and build your own.
I think the other thing...
Spider-Punk builds it for it, doesn't he?
I think the other thing as well here in this moment is that Jessica Drew, she is effectively Miguel's right-hand Spider-Woman. But in that moment when Miles escapes from the society, there is a potential, there's a look captured on her face, which is one where she starts to have doubts. And I think that's why you see her also in Earth 1610 as well.
Yeah.
Well,
it's because Gwen shouting back at them going, we're supposed to be the heroes here. We're not supposed to be chasing and killing one of our own, or not allowing him to try and save his parent. Like, that doesn't sound like a good guy thing to do, does it? So, really enjoyed that. Interesting to see that we will hopefully have Nicolas Cage back as Spider-Man Noir, and John Mulaney back as Spider-Ham in the next movie. No lines from either of them in this movie, but just their presence at the end of the movie. So that was quite cool. And yes, the big reveal, Beyond the Spider-Verse, coming next year to close out the story of the Spider-Verse.
Yeah. So, really, really good. I think that wraps up our discussion of Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse.
Absolutely. Couple of notes, though.
Yes.
I think we have to have a couple of notes. Couple that I really enjoyed. Donald Glover getting to play a live-action Prowler, so Uncle Aaron. We did see Donald Glover in a very small role in the first Spider-Man movie with Tom Holland, playing the role of someone who said his nephew was Miles Morales, so that was Uncle Aaron. So seeing here that he's playing a live-action Prowler, really cool, just a little touch, nod back to people that would recognise Donald Glover from that role, so very cool to have him in there.
Yeah.
And I just think there's one of my favourite moments with probably the first ever animated Spider-Man that I saw, which was a 2D Spider-Man that kind of moved on card. The animation was so bad back in the 60s. And I love that he's the one that had the theme tune of Spider-Man does whatever a spider can. And he's going, I can do everything that you can, and then gets thwarted by the third dimension, the dreaded third dimension. Love that. Thought that was a really good fun moment.
Exactly. I think the only note from me is we do have a little sequence of Lego Spider-Man.
Yes, we do.
Capturing Phil Lord's legacy of the Lego movies. And, just the comment of, that he's a really good one. He is,
that's the best universe. That one,
exactly.
Absolutely.
So really, I thought that was really cool. That was a good little nod there.
Excellent. So overall, then, John, do you defend this Marvel movie? I think I can tell. But how would you rate it?
I really do defend Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse. I would give this 5 pimple poppers out of 5 for sure. Yes.
Excellent.
This really circumvented my expectations. Actually, it came through from the first one so good, and I absolutely adored that, and I equally adore this one. I think I think it's all about expectation. I kind of went in there thinking, feel as though I've been spoilt actually by the teaser. And in fact, again, circumventing my own expectations and my assumptions, it added just loads of really interesting layers and complication to this story.
Yeah.
And it was jam-packed with so many Easter eggs. I mean, I do need to see this again for sure. At least once more. Probably about another 10 times in order to capture them all.
Yeah.
It's a great pace. I say it, my bum was going numb, but it was I think I was just transfixed by it. So I was sat in the same position. It is kinetic. It's full of emotion. It's dark in places. I just really enjoyed all the different characters brought to life here. With so many different Spider-Man characters, they all play a really good role. And some of them just starting off, but I cannot wait till Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse. So for me, this was a 5 pimples out of 5.
Nice.
They squished it.
Yes, they did. Totally agree with you. Yeah, I'd highly defend this movie. I think this is so much better than I was expecting. You mentioned about the trailer. I remember watching that with you at about 8 o'clock in the morning before work. The trailer had been released overnight. We watched it. I was really down afterwards. I was like, this doesn't look as good as the last one. It looks like they've just done the same animation style brought in the characters. I can tell Miguel's the bad guy. Didn't really want him to be the bad guy because, hey, it's Oscar Isaac. We like him to be the hero, right?
Yeah.
So I was going, and they've told you the whole story. Look, that's the moment when Miles turns on the Spider Society and gets away from them. And here's Miguel going to be chasing after him because he's the big bad. Totally subverted my expectations. Went to the cinema, the Spot being the bad guy, which even watching the movie, you don't expect that's where it's going to go. So really good. Loved the joke on canon that the canon can't be touched. And if you destroy canon, then you ruin the entire universe for everybody. Love that little joke that is really important to the universe. But the style of this film is what will keep me coming back and watching it multiple times. It is so beautiful to look at. Particularly in IMAX. I'm not actually. I think I saw the last one. No, we did see the last one.
This movie has style. It has substance. It's really affecting.
So much heart too.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I love just even the interaction between Miles and his parents. Just even the conversations that are there between them, where he's trying to puzzle out with them. Yes, I'm growing up. Yes, I'm still your son, but I'm also growing to become myself and become an adult. And that moment when his mom kind of releases him from grounding, which is the thing you do with a kid, and releases him to go and experience life because he has to do that to grow. I think that's really good, considering the earlier discussion that he couldn't possibly go to a college or university outside of Brooklyn because then he's in the wide world where she can't wrap him up in cotton wool, you know. So love those moments. It's just got such a great heart to it. Excellent stuff. Another Spider-Man movie in the bag, John. I think that's the 10th theatrical Spider-Man movie released.
It's a lot.
Yeah. There's been a lot of different takes on Spider-Man, but this is really unique and really stands up to this particular franchise, the Spider-Verse franchise. So
the whole thing about it is really fresh, exciting, and just really good. I absolutely adore this movie and the previous one around the Spider-Verse. So cannot wait for the third movie. And I think, fellow Defenders, we hope you will be around as well for our take on the third movie, which will be Spider-Man Beyond the Spider-Verse, which will be out next year, from what we understand.
March 24th, I believe.
Yeah, so not that long to wait.
Absolutely.
Let us move on to our feedback.
Yeah, I know we got to see this on preview night. Not many people went out and saw it on preview night or, sent us feedback after their viewings on preview night. But we did get a little bit of feedback in from Ben Rush. I wanted to read it because I thought it was great. Ben says, my eyes are still recovering from the amazing spectrum of Spider-Man, women, cat, Rex, T-Rex. Horse T-Rex. Sorry, we did, of course, have Cowboy Spider-Man on his horse, which was also wearing a mask. Yeah. Great fun. And the T-Rex, yes, excellent fun. Ben says, off to see it again tomorrow. Loved it to bits. The third part, better web here soon.
Yes.
Excellent stuff.
Good stuff, Ben. I completely agree with you. Eyes were frazzled after it. Yeah. But what a explosion of greatness into the old retinas, I guess.
Absolutely. If you want to share your thoughts on this movie in the Spider-Verse, pop on over to our Facebook group at facebook.com/groups/TV Podcast Industries. There is a post up there, a spoiler post, where you can discuss your thoughts about Across the Spider-Verse. You can also email us, as we mentioned before, to feedback@tvpodcastindustries.com. That is another movie in the books for Movies on TV Podcast Industries. We've got loads more stuff that we're covering later on this year. We're coming back with our regular weekly Marvel podcast covering Marvel's Secret Invasion.
Yes.
Starring Nick Fury.
Yeah. Absolutely. If you hadn't guessed it, Derek's favourite comic book character, if you hadn't guessed.
Yeah, absolutely. 60th anniversary of Nick Fury this year. So there's a special comic out there which covers all the years of Nick Fury. It's very cool. Go check it out if you can get your hands on a copy. It's probably worth quite a lot, actually, for a very weird reason, which you'll probably see in the news. But go check it out. Well worth reading. Nick Fury obviously having his own TV series for the first time with Secret Invasion. He is, of course, appearing in The Marvels later on this year, back with Captain Marvel, who he appeared in the first Captain Marvel movie. So he's back in the second. So it's the year of Nick Fury.
Exactly. Yeah. Joining the world of Spider-Punk, we will be travelling to ye olde London town, or ye olde England, with Good Omens in July as well. Yeah. Season 2 of Good Omens.
Looking forward to that.
Yeah. And of course, then on the 1st of September, we will be delving into the fantasy epic series Wheel of Time.
Season 2 of that as well.
It's second season. Yeah. After covering The Witcher, another fantasy epic there in August as well.
And we've also got some space fantasy because we are covering our first live action Star Wars series with Ahsoka.
We are
coming out on Disney Plus in 27th of August, I think, or late August, as far as I know.
Yes, I think I had blotted out August on the basis that I think The Witcher and Ahsoka do kind of hit roughly in the same time period. And will sort of bleed, dare I say, into Wheel of Time as well. So we will be busy little bees in that period.
We certainly will. And it doesn't stop there because the spin-off of The Boys, which is our biggest show really on TV Podcast Industries, is coming out towards the end of September, we believe. But now with the announcement of Wheel of Time coming out in the 1st September, that may be pushed back on Prime Video because both of those shows are on Prime Video. So no firm time, but we will be covering it on TV Podcast Industries.
Yes. So if this is your first time joining us, or as a reminder, please subscribe to the podcast through any good or evil podcast catcher of your choice. You can go and find some of them over at tvpodcastindustries.com. Please share the podcast, rate us, leave a review, because of course, sharing the podcast is sharing the love.
Absolutely. And speaking of sharing the love, once again, huge congratulations to Chris Kell and little Miles.
Exactly.
Welcome
great
to the
stuff.
family.
Yeah, absolutely. Another Spider-Man fan is born, I am guessing.
I'm absolutely certain that child will be a Spider-Man fan in the same way that that fans of Liverpool turn their children into Liverpool fans. I'm sure Chris will turn his lovely new kid into a Spider fan.
Excellent stuff. And of course, just to take Chris's spot as well, you can, if you want to, also support us by heading on over to patreon.com/TV Podcast Industries for a regular donation to help support the podcast. Or for a one-off piece of support, you can head on over to buymeacoffee.com/TVPI.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll talk to you again next time. Very soon.
Yes. Excellent. As always, fellow defenders, it is great coming back to the Marvel universe with you. But until Secret Invasion, keep watching, keep listening, and, of course, keep swinging and thwipping.
Bye.
Bye.